I think what happened to me, I don't think it's as unusual as you might hope that it would be.
As a chief of staff in the California State Senate, Elise Jarrah says she's witnessed a systemic culture of sex assault at the Capitol where powerful men prey on young women.
I think there's a lot of younger staffers, junior level staffers who are afraid to speak out, and I understand why.
After joining nearly 150 Capitol women and signing a letter standing up to it, Jarrah is becoming the first to accuse a coworker by name, calling out Assemblyman Raul Bocanegra.
He put his hands on me, completely unwelcome, completely without warning, and intimate parts of my body were touched that he had no right to touch.
Jarrah says it happened in 2009 when Bocanegra was a chief of staff in the Assembly. The two were at the popular Sacramento nightclub Mix for an after-work function.
He proceeded to follow me for the rest of the evening and glare at me and appear anytime I left my senator's side.
Jarrah later filed a complaint with the Assembly Rules Committee, their investigation revealing it is more likely than not that Mr. Bocanegra engaged in behavior that night which does not meet the Assembly's expectations for professionalism. Bocanegra, who became an assemblyman in 2012, was told not to communicate with Jarrah.
If I saw he was taking the elevators, I would duck into the stairwell, and if I saw that he was taking the stairs, even if I had started taking the stairs and saw him coming up, I would turn right back around.
In a statement to KCRA 3 News, Bocanegra says, "I'm deeply regretful about putting someone in this position, and I want to apologize most sincerely." Jarrah is hoping her story will inspire others and increase awareness, using her voice to break the silence.
We're talking about sexual assault. We're talking about rape. We're talking about people not able to give consent. We're talking about things that are criminal activity. Or if a chief of staff can't speak out after almost 17 years in the building, and it's a documented case, then I don't know who can speak out.
Jarrah says right now there is a practice among women who work at the Capitol of sort of protecting each other by pointing out the men who behave inappropriately. She hopes that speaking out will become a new defense tactic. Reporting live at the Capitol, Tom Miller, KCRA 3 News.
Yeah, though not a lot of these women have been naming people at this point except for her. So what's been the fallout here? Are you hearing some reactions to this, Tom?
Yeah, most notably, we heard a big reaction from the Women's Legislative Caucus chair. She tweeted this out, and I'm quoting now, "I refuse to work with Assemblyman Bocanegra and anyone who takes part in harassment or assault. I stand with Elise." For her part, Elise is saying that she's heard from a lot of her colleagues, and they're telling her that they're really proud of her. They're really grateful that she spoke out.
All right, Tom Miller live for us at the Capitol. Thanks for your report.